Welcome to Eternal Freedom. Today we're going to talk about addiction of experience. That's right. It's a phrase that most people have probably not heard of. And today when we talk about addictions, we talk about a drug addict or a person who's addicted to smoking or drinking or even sex. But there are more subtle addictions which we rarely talk about, such as food, exercise, travel, reading, going to the gym, thinking. Yes, thinking as well. Thinking is one of the biggest addictions. So colloquially speaking, addiction refers to a habit that is hard to break. That's what we mean by addiction. The interesting thing is we always seem to blame the object or the activity when we talk about addiction. And perhaps this is in our conditioning, that when we look at a person who is a drunk, we blame the alcohol or we blame the cigarette when someone is smoking. So it's always the alcohol or the cigarettes or the substance that is being abused, like drugs, that we blame. But the problem is not with the activity or the object. If you look deeper, the problem is with the habit. Because the habit somehow has become obsessive, excessive, compulsive habit, to a point where the thinking is bypassed. No one is thinking. It just happens. You see food, you want to eat it. You don't care about how full your stomach is or the fact that you only had your last meal 5 minutes back. But your mind says, I want it. And you crave for it. However, if you observe this even more closely, you'll find something even more fundamental in this whole process called the experience, which is creating the addiction. So when you drink, it's not the alcohol, it's not the habit, it is actually the experience that your brain generated or your mind generated, which is what you're trying to replicate initially, to a point that eventually gets repeated so many times it becomes a habit. And so the addiction is of the experience itself. Because you're addicted to the experience, you are willing to repeat it endlessly till that experience becomes part of your so-called DNA, till it takes over your body. Your body now starts feeling that without that particular substance, well, more fundamentally, without that particular experience, you can't survive. And then your body gets used to the substance you're consuming, and the body also gets so used to it that it can't survive without it. And if you observe closely, we are all in a rat race. We're trying to accumulate experiences of different types of food, different travel destinations, different clothes, different jewelry, different cars, wines, houses, money. The list just goes on and on and on. It is a madhouse, because if you logically think, there are infinite number of experiences. Can anyone possibly experience everything? Not really. And everyone knows that one day they are going to die. So all these experiences, all this accumulation this rat race is getting into is all of this will be left behind. And what we need, though, for survival is limited. But our obsession or addiction with experiences is so much that we just keep on accumulating. We just keep on running after more and more. Like, you take an example of food. How many different types of food do you want to try? You can only have a certain amount of food, which is what your stomach can support. Beyond that, it becomes a problem. You can't digest it. But even so, the mind tells you you want more. You want to experience all the different restaurants that there are, all the different types of food that there are, and there is no end to it. So we are effectively chasing all these experiences. But more importantly, there is this false belief as well that these experiences are giving us something, notwithstanding the fact that when you die, all these experiences mean nothing. But we still have this feeling, oh, I want to experience this because it gives me joy. So I think we need to explore what happens when you have an experience. So experience, one of the first things we see when we experience something is that we observe it. So experience relies on change and a continual comparison. So what that means is that when we are born, we have no experience, right? And our parents start teaching us A, B, C, D, and the way we are taught is we're given a book, and the book has a picture of the alphabet A and an apple. A for apple, B for ball, C for cat, and so on. So the whole intent of that book is for us to familiarize us with the alphabet, the shape of the alphabet, but also the shape and color of the object that it is used to call out. So A for apple, the apple is red in color, it's got a certain shape. And that is how our memory is built, the dictionary is built. And as those things are imparted to us, gradually we see a real apple and we compare it to the image that we have, and we recognize it, and we say, that's an apple, A for apple. But also something interesting happens here, that apples are not all red. So that was the initial information that was given to you that's stored in your dictionary. And so when you come across an apple that is green in color or yellow in color, you then adapt and refine that definition of the apple. And so that experience of green apple and the yellow apple makes you refine the whole experience of what an apple is. And so it is that you go gradually learning and refining what you were initially taught. And each one of those is an experience. And the brain, what it is doing is taking snapshots of that which it observes through the senses, and it's continually refining. And that is what is called an experience. So, notwithstanding the fact that if your memory went away, there is no experience. It is all, in fact, illusory, because your memory is just taking snapshots of different things. And what you find is that when you're taking a snapshot, if you find there is significant change between what you observed previously and what you're observing now, then you call it a new experience, because the shift is substantial. If it is incremental, then you sometimes don't even notice that change. But at times you say, yeah, it's changing. There's some movement. It's getting refined. So that's another aspect of experience. The other interesting thing is that the experience itself is really about your observing or perceiving. It is about perception. And your perception in itself, the whole process of experiencing is about the perception of that which is around you, and the comparison of that which you have already stored in your memory. So in and of itself, the perception has neither joy nor suffering associated with it. The comparison as well has nothing associated with it. So when you experience something, it doesn't give you pleasure or joy or suffering, but it is only our interpretation of that which is perceived, which then makes it pleasurable or painful. So that is a very important factor. So all that you observe, all that you're experiencing, doesn't give you pain or suffering. This is a fairly important point, contrary to what we've led to believe, that when you go on a great holiday, that gives you great joy, or that gives you lifts your mood and makes you happy. So then the next question is, what then makes us happy? If it is not the experience, then what makes it pleasurable? So the experiences typically that are so spectacular sometimes result in suspension of our thoughts. We completely become thoughtless for a few seconds, and as a result, we have this immense peace or this happiness. So, for example, you see something spectacular scenery, or a scene in a movie, or a beautiful place. For a second or two, you're dumbfounded, you're thoughtless. And when that happens, you feel happy, you feel peaceful. So it's not the activity that is making you peaceful. It is not even the experience, because the experiencing, or the experience itself, is actually the act of comparing what you've seen versus what you're seeing now. So that is also not making you happy. but in fact it is more the thoughtlessness that actually makes you happy. And certain things make you more happy because they are so spectacular that your brain stops thinking. Now, if you explore this even more, so if it is not the object that is causing the addiction, nor the habit, nor even the experience which is causing that addiction, it is in fact the misinterpretation by the mind that certain experiences are giving it pleasure. And that misinterpretation, that false belief is what makes us run after all these experiences, hoping to get that same level of bliss, that happiness, when we go and experience anything. So firstly, it's a hit and trial process, because we go run after hundreds and zillions of experiences, hoping that I'll be happy. You don't even know what makes you happy. It's not the experience that makes you happy, or nor the object. And we spend millions of dollars traveling around, going to different places and visiting different countries, different sites, different temples sometimes. But none of that, it's not the object that is making you happy either. It is actually the fact that when your mind stops for a bit and you have peace, that's when you become happy. So those that have realized this, or those that know that all the experiences, all they are an illusion. They're just this mind's way of comparing between what is stored, what is comparing the changes. That's all there is. And the changes also exist because of this concept. Again, this is a concept that the mind has come up with called time. If there is no time, there is no change. Or the other way around. If change only exists on a spectrum of time, at this point, right now, right here, that which appears to me is that which it is, that which is apparent. There is no concept of time. Time is again a mind-created illusion. So, but those who have realized this partly have then decided to find that happiness through meditation, go inside, trying to still their mind and find that happiness inside. But that also is a misguided thing, because you can't possibly sit in meditation all the time. There is another way. You can be in awareness. When you are in awareness, you suddenly observe everything that appears as is, without interpretation, without judgment. When that happens, you automatically create a distance between that which is being observed and you as the observer or the experiencer. And then if you went a bit more deeper, those that have realized the true essence of this, they've discovered that that bliss that you're searching for in experiences, that you're searching for in all sorts of different external things, that bliss exists in this just one simple word: stillness. Stillness of the mind. Stillness of the mind, the body, the intellect, the emotions. When everything is still and silence, the bliss, the peace is unimaginable. Far, far, far greater than what you could experience when you go after an experience. Thank you for listening.